The UN has said that at least 100 trucks are needed per day. And so the 20 trucks that will be hopefully arriving soon are not nearly enough to provide relief to the suffering 2.3 million people trapped inside of Gaza.
Rishi Sunak remains in the Middle East to urge leaders not to allow the conflict between Israel and Hamas to escalate further. Whilst the politicians keep talking, Gaza remains under siege, with aid lorries waiting near the border with Egypt. Shaina Low is a communications advisor with the Norwegian Refugee Council and joins us from Jerusalem. Shaina, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I just want to try to understand, first of all, to the best of your knowledge, what the situation is with those aid lorries trying to cross over from Egypt. Is there any indication that they are on their way into Gaza?
What I saw reported this morning is that there were dwindling hopes that these trucks would be making their way into Gaza today. The situation there is getting extremely dire. People are suffering. There's lack of water, lack of food, lack of medicine. These trucks can't come soon enough. It's important to note that the UN has said that at least 100 trucks are needed per day. And so the 20 trucks that will be hopefully arriving soon are not nearly enough to provide relief to the suffering 2.3 million people trapped inside of Gaza. One thing also to consider is that while there may be an agreement to bring those trucks in to Gaza, we also need assurances that humanitarian workers and UN folks from UN agencies will be able to access those supplies and be able to safely distribute them throughout Gaza. There's no way that humanitarian relief efforts can be made so long as there's ongoing airstrikes and bombardments inside of Gaza. We also need assurances that those traveling to distribution points will also be assured of their safety and won't be harmed while trying to seek out assistance.
Why, Shaina, is there such dependence on the crossing, the Rafah crossing from Egypt? Is there no other way in with aid at any other point on the border?
So the Rafah crossing is really the only crossing that's operational right now. My understanding is that the crossings from Israel were damaged during the events of October 7th and are not operational.
Okay, so it literally is just that one almost exclusive route, if you like, on which there is dependence. In terms of the situation, you've described it as dire. What are you hearing from colleagues elsewhere in Gaza who are on the ground, as it were, who are with the civilians there, and what are they in need of?
So we have 54 staff in Gaza who are Palestinians from Gaza. They are local staff. So they are as fearful as everyone else about what's been going on and about what's happening. Unfortunately, multiple members of NRC staff have lost family members in the last 10 days, including one colleague whose son was killed. Her only child was killed in an airstrike on the Rafah just a couple of days ago. It's important to note that Palestinians were told to leave from northern Gaza to head to the south for safety. But what we're hearing time and again is that there's no safe place in Gaza. Aerial bombardments are continuing in the south. I spoke to my colleague Yusuf this morning via text. He told me that all last night until about 3-4 hours ago, there was continuous shelling. 2 nights ago, there was a drone strike at right in front of an UNRWA school near where he was staying. So in the first place, it's just not physically safe. Secondly, there's just a dwindling supply of food, water. The UN has reported that people are down to about 3 liters of water per day. That's not just for drinking, that's also for cooking, for hygiene. The average person should have at least 50 to 100 liters of water per day in order to maintain hygienic standards and have enough to survive. The water that people are consuming is often contaminated, untreated. We're also hearing reports that stocks in stores are quickly dwindling. Food is becoming harder and harder to find. My understanding is that there are some stocks in Gaza City, but because of the ongoing artillery strikes and airstrikes, it's simply not safe to go and access those stocks that are even inside of Gaza and ostensibly would be available for use by the 2.3 million people in Gaza.
Gosh, that depiction truly is dire. With that in mind, I just wonder, Shaina, how people's patience is going to last. And I don't mean to be trite about that. I'm just considering that, as you said, people were instructed to move from north to south, to leave their homes in search of safety. As you've outlined, perhaps that's a bit of a red herring, really. There is no place of safety. But if you are away from home, if you are not able then to access supplies, the basics, food, water, etc., I just wonder if that will lead to real discontent among the people that have been displaced.
2 days ago, my colleague told me that he didn't know how much longer he could last. He said that he does not want to move his family again. The only place that they want to go to is to return back to the north where their home is, despite the fact that they've heard that their neighborhood has been completely destroyed. People are desperate. There's hundreds of thousands of people trapped in or taking shelter in UN shelters, both in the north and in the south. And those people are living under extremely difficult circumstances, cramped together. Many people, we are hearing more and more from our own staff, that even though they went to the south to ostensibly be safer, they would rather return home now, where at least they would be unsafe, but in the dignity of their own homes.